Hey guys, what is up? Underdog here, bringing you another episode of Underdogg's WWE Rewind. I'm going to review, give my opinion, and go over last night's episode of Raw from June 20th, 2011. This was a 3-hour episode of Power to the People. And we get started right into it now. First to come out was CM Punk. As CM Punk was coming out, Booker T would go ahead and join Jerry Lawler and Michael Cole for tonight. Not a huge surprise, considering there were some SmackDown stars in attendance for this episode. But CM Punk comes out, was pretty much just a small mic segment, little promo he came out for. He started off by putting down the Baltimore, Maryland crowd. I can't remember exactly. Don't quote me on this, but I believe he was just talking smack about him. And then he was going on to build himself up as the best of the best in WWE and how nobody was better than him. And he went on to say about how he should be a #1 contender due to the fact that he beats John Cena last week. He was able to beat Rey Mysterio at Capital Punishment. And he was working the mic really well this time. The show looked like it was starting out to be pretty good, actually. And then the Raw GM decides to chime in on this. And Punk would go on to mock Michael Cole for his email announcements. Just pretty much telling Cole to get on with it. The Raw GM chimes in and goes, because Punk was kind of disrespecting the anonymous GM, like people were upset about that. It basically goes on to say, I was going to announce later on tonight that you are the #1 contender, but unfortunately I feel a bit unappreciated or disrespected, I believe he used, excuse me. Therefore I'm going to make a triple threat match tonight for the #1 contender to make you prove yourself once again. I'm going to make the triple threat match yourself, CM Punk versus Alberto Del Rio versus Rey Mysterio. And they would pretty much cut out after that. And this would bring up the first Power to the People poll. I'm going to use people with quotations. Personally, I think it's all BS, bullshit. I don't think, it's just my opinion, I don't think people really had the power tonight. I think that WWE was just trying to make it look like it. But the first Power to People poll was, who will face Brie Bella for the Divas title? Choice would be between Beth Phoenix, Eve Torres, and Kelly Kelly. Going into this one, I was pretty positive you would probably see Kelly Kelly be chosen, and sure enough she was after they came back from a break. The crowd was silent. They didn't really seem to care about this. Not really a surprise there, considering that the Divas have not been getting a huge pop as of late. There was as the match went on, actually, considering last week's matchup with the Divas, this was actually a little bit better match by a long shot. Even though it looked as if Kelly Kelly screwed up at the end as she was going for a roll-up off the top turnbuckle. And it went like halfway through. Brie Bella ended up getting a 2 count, and then Kelly quickly reversed it, taking a 3 count and the victory, and she is your new Divas champion. And she goes on to praise the people, in quotations, thanking her for choosing her to be the one to go up against Brie Bella. And then, right after that, and very weird seeing, they cut a pretty huge promo on Evan Bourne. I'm not quite sure even the announcers would go on to start praising Bourne a lot. They're really trying to push him here going into the commercial break. Not quite sure why exactly. Considering that, I'm kind of surprised WWE would push him, considering that they always go for the bigger guys. I don't really see the point of it because it's just not a guy that you could see main eventing anything. But anyway, the next power to the people, in quotations, choice would be who will face Evan Bourne. And the choices were Jack Swagger, Mason Ryan, and Sin Cara. Laura gets excited about receiving a text from the WWE, I believe when they returned from the commercial break, which I thought was really stupid. And going in right before this, I was going right into it thinking, well, obviously the people are going to pick Sin Cara here, so it would be a pretty interesting match. And the people in quotations have chosen Mason Ryan. That the fans went on to boo, which told me very quickly that this is obviously not in control by the people. I know it probably is, but that's just how it looked throughout the night, and you will notice as we go further along this. But I definitely would have thought that Sin Cara would have been the one to face Evan Bourne. Mason Ryan is definitely the last one of those three. But anyway, we get Sin Cara versus Bourne. If not, maybe the WWE fans have been getting fed up with Cara's constant mistakes here, almost every match. And to me, it sounded midway through the match, even though this was a pretty short match, it wasn't that good of a match, it almost sounded like the crowd had, I want to say, Batista chants, which would make sense considering Mason Ryan could be Batista's twin, in my opinion. But I'm not 100% sure. I was not able to hear the chants clearly last night, so I'm sure it could have been something else, but I'm not 100% sure. But that's just what I understood. I thought it might have been. But Mason Ryan ends up winning in a short, boring, and pointless match. WWE really needs to realize that Ryan isn't anything special other than his brute size. His mic skills are worse than my mic skills with my videos here on YouTube. It just goes to show how bad he is. But on the next power to the people in quotations, we had Kane versus Mark Henry, and the fans got to choose the stipulation. It would be a body slam match, an arm wrestling match, or an over-the-top rope match. Now, I didn't really care about this either way. I really wanted to just fast forward through this match. So I did tape it, recorded on my DVR. Anyway, the people in quotations would go on to choose Dermo, the arm wrestling match. This is the last one that I thought they would go on to choose, as a matter of fact. The fans booed this decision, funny considering that this was chosen by the people and they booed their own choice. People in quotations. Before a commercial break, Henry was going on to talk, which I didn't really pay much attention with. But the crowd would go on to do the what chants, and he was starting to get upset. That will lead into the commercial break. Anyway, they get set for the arm wrestling match, and I believe, no, don't quote me on this, like I said, I had a hard time understanding what the fans, the crowd, was chanting last night, but it almost sounded like they were chanting, "This is stupid," during this. Big surprise, Henry gets DQ'd due to punching Kane in the face as Kane was about to pull him over to win the arm wrestling match. And the two end up fighting outside the ring, with Henry ended up beating the hell out of Kane by putting Kane through the announce table with Henry's World's Strongest Slam. I, for one, am glad to see that Henry is being brought back to being the heel badass that's really just taking it out. But one thing I find it odd that a month or two ago, when he was the face, he was getting the crap beat on by mid-card superstars, and that it's just bad part of WWE, in my opinion. Henry is not, after this, I believe went to a commercial break, and we had R-Truth coming out for a promo. That, in my opinion, this next promo would build up to be probably the best segment of the night, in my opinion. The first hour has gone by at this point, and nothing entertaining has happened, and so far this episode of Raw has been a disappointment, in my opinion. other than the fact that Kelly is the Divas champion. R-Truth would go on to make a call to himself, as he quoted, quote unquote, call to himself, to his brain, head, mind, it might have been, and tells the crowd to not wet him. After this was pretty much one of the first lines that he started, I knew that this had the potential to be a pretty entertaining and hilarious segment. Truth would go on, blah, 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 about the conspiracy theories, and would eventually go on to yell, "Stop wetting me," and I got by the little Jimmies. I actually thought this was a good play on words with the little Jimmy. I really love the little Jimmy thing. I love the R-Truth craziness, lost his mind deal. And after this, Christian would come out. Christian would come out and call, quote unquote, power to the people, a complete joke. Couldn't agree with him more there. Couldn't be further from the truth. That's the truth in my opinion. That was a bad pun, but okay, let's move on. And after Christian comes out, basically him and R-Truth agreed that the conspiracy theory thing, after Christian got beat at Capital Punishment, even though his foot was under the rope, and the ref still gave the 1, 2, 3 to Orton. And of course, he went on to complain about that. And out to Miz, and I believe at this point, I told myself this has potential to be the best segment of the night, and I would go on to pretty much be right on the money there. They all go back and forth saying, really, 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 really. And then on Clear Blue Sky, Truth just comes out and says, "Jimmy." And right after that happens, out comes Teddy Long, and right there I go, oh, and there goes the segment down the pipe. He comes out telling everyone to pretty much shut the hell up, which I thought was interesting considering he's a GM and usually is biased on a show. But he announces a 3-on-3 tag match for the main event, which I thought was pretty interesting considering that this is not his show. So the main event tonight would be R-Truth, The Miz, Christian versus John Cena, Alex Riley, and Randy Orton. First thing when I heard this would be a good chance for him to start pushing Alex Riley a bit more, especially after Riley got the victory against The Miz at Capital Punishment. Moving on quickly here, the next power to the people in quotations is the United States title match between Kofi Kingston and Dolph Ziggler. Dolph Ziggler ended up beating Kofi at Capital Punishment to win the title in either a 2-out-of-3 falls match, a Vicky Band, or a submission match. Personally, I did not care which one. Anyway, I knew it wouldn't be submission because I don't really think any of these guys know submission moves. I think Dolph Ziggler might have a sleeper hold at that. Excuse me. I would not have been upset with a Vicky Band one, considering that I can't stand her for the life of me, even though I like the heels in the WWE. Or it would be, which would go on to be what the people in quotation have chosen, a 2-out-of-3 falls match